Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to PyroFalkon's Let's Play Extravaganza, where it's your Let's Play 2. Today is May 31st, 2015, and you are watching Streaming Sundays number 55, I believe. We're going to continue playing Choice of the Deathless, a visual novel, or I don't know what you call them when it's not really visual anymore. It's a choose-your-own-adventure book.
Yeah, choose-your-own-adventure, basically.
But you can buy it on Steam for only $3. The link is in the video description if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you are watching this on YouTube, you should have joined us on Hitbox every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Hitbox.tv/PyroFalkon. LPE. Links are in there. Okay. So this is just to resume where we left off last week, in case you didn't see it. We are playing Lord of Voldemort Kang, who is I guess, an undead lawyer. That was never really explained. I didn't really catch it, but she's an undead lawyer.
It's more like an occult lawyer, really.
An occult lawyer. Nice. And we are working for a lawyering agency. We have apparently died in the prologue, and we are snatching pieces of our life in memory form as we go along. And we are between shards of memory, so that's where we will get started. I'm playing this game with audience participation, which, again, if you're watching this on YouTube, is another reason you should join us on Hitbox. Although, that said, the Akamura was loving this game so much last week that she not only bought it and downloaded it, she played it so much, she literally knows everything else for the rest of the game. So she's decided that it wouldn't be fair for her to pick anything since she knows how it'll play out regardless.
Yep.
Therefore, she's taken herself out of the rotation. But everybody else in the chat gets to play in turns and choose our path of destiny. We will be concluding the game tonight, so let us get started. You lean back in your chair and spin around to stare out the window over the rolling Greatwater. Peaking waves spark and glitter in the sunlight, only to disappear like bits of glass falling through a beam of light. Falling into darkness. The image slips and fades, but the blood remains. You are more than you were. At least, you remember more than you once remembered. You're still falling in pieces in this darkness from which you cannot return. More sparks and slivers of falling memory tumble toward you. You grope for memories. You grew in the aftermath of the demon case. You learned, you trained, and you took on more responsibility with your farm. A year passed. How did your life change? So I am up, and I have three options here. Let's change how much we saved, because debt sucks. So, how did you change your finances? I saved more to pay off my debt faster. What a sensible approach. Debt hangs over your head like an executioner's sword. Best get out from under it as quickly as possible. How else did your life change? And for that, I'll pass to Tink, who can let me know in the chat if we moved or if we didn't change anything else, and we will move on to the next bit of the story. Tink says that we moved closer to the office. Cool, we'll have more sleep. After an exhaustive and exhausting search, you found a nice apartment near the office. Fancy and expensive, but at least it's close. How else did you manage your life change? Nothing, because we can't afford to pay off our student loans. And so you reach for another shard of your spinning mind, another reflection of a screaming face you barely recognize as your own. You feel the sharp edge of the glass first. Then you see the blood on your palm. Then you feel the pain. You strangle your urge to curse. You stand in the open first floor of a deserted warehouse by the freight docks. No ghost lights here, or even oil lanterns. Only the light of the morning sun filtered through dirty and broken windows. The cut's not deep, but it stings. You check the windowsill for glass before trying to climb through, but you must have missed some. Oh well. You needed to get inside, and someone's padlocked the main door. So now that you're here, in this dirty, collapsing building, hunting for a monster, this is what you get for taking on a pro bono assignment. It all seemed well and good when you saw the posting on the pro bono opportunities board. Angelica Nebuchadnezzar herself posted this one, so you knew it would be a high-profile case. Probably. You've been too busy to get enough sleep recently, so, strictly speaking, you shouldn't be taking on more work, but the opportunity was too good to pass up.
My stream just
There are
went out.
lots of reasons a person might want to take the case for free. Which one moved you to accept this particular case? And TC is up and can select one of those 4 options. TC selects that we want to develop our skills. Let's be honest, large-scale craft of the kind you've done since you started with Varkoth Nebuchadnezzar doesn't tend to be for personal development. Partners talk a good game about professional growth, but if you're trying to carve apart a god or build a barricade against demonic invasion, it's easier to give one person one job and expect them to do it. Pro bono cases have limited stakes. Mess up and you won't be costing the firm anything more than your time. So on this case, the firm's willing to let you do, well, everything. Strategy, tactics, wards, actual argument, wielding sorcerous weapons against faceless and stringent opposition. This is what you wanted when you went to school. Which may say something about your own relative mental stability, but we can cross that bridge when we come to it. The case is a straightforward demonic contract dispute. Common enough. Demons are visitors from worlds beyond the skein of our own reality, and physical laws don't bind them in the same way they bind most people. A demon, loose in our world, would have virtually unlimited power, though would be profoundly unstable, and probably die in short order. So, summoned demons are bound by contracts. The demon receives soul stuff and a gateway into the world. In exchange, the contract sets rules binding it, and mandates the performance of certain services. Major summoning concerns are good at this sort of thing, and problems rarely arise. Demons are set free or bound to animate golems or directed to perform any number of tasks. But on the small scale, many disreputable craftsmen and demons try to forge contracts exploitative to one side or the other. That seems to be the problem here. A demon claims to be bound by a bad contract and wants professional help to break free. That means you. Your uncle was once on the receiving end of a particularly unfair deal. He thought he knew what he was doing when he signed. He lost his business because of it. No demons involved that time, but nobody should have to suffer through that. Not even things that eat human flesh. Apparently in hell there's worse things than being a demon. It's
oh god.
Bad contracts.
Yeah, I think we're coming up on one of my favorite lines.
Since this is your case, you can choose a team if you want or go it alone. Of course, as an associate in your second year, you still don't have a lot of pull, but you might be able to convince some of your colleagues to put in extra hours if you choose to. Do you ask anyone else? And that question goes to Tech Guru. Please let me know in the chat which of those 4 options you would like to pick. Tech Guru selects Vega might want to lend a hand if he's not too busy. Vega's not in his office. You wait around for a while, browsing his copy of this month's Scarfox Hunters Quarterly. Our reviewers cover the year's best destrier breeds for your next hunt. And after a quarter hour, he storms into the office, hair in disarray, loosens his tie, slides it off over his head, and hangs it around a pewter figurine of a Camelon Highland Piper on the shelf over his desk. He leans against the window and sighs.
Yay!
You turn... What?
I fucking love Vega. He's the best.
You turn the page and he starts and spins around to face you, drawing his knife from the glyph over his heart. He then sees you, releases the knife, and laughs. You could have said something. You look distracted. Ever since the TT case, I've been the go-to boy for high-level wards. It's great work, it's good for my career, but sometimes I feel like I'm drowning. You don your best winning smile. If that's the problem, why not take a break from your work with some other work? He raises one eyebrow, but listens as you outline the particulars of the demon case. What the hells, he says. The last thing I need right now is more work. That said, it would be nice to help with something uncomplicated and morally correct for once. I hoped you'd say that. First step in a case like this is to meet with the client. The posting listed an address. You send a letter announcing that you'll visit the next morning, requesting a reply if that schedule doesn't work. You receive none, so the next day you and Vega take a cab to the address. At which point the risks of getting involved with pro bono work in an unfamiliar city become clear to you. You see, if you knew Shikov very well at all, you'd have recognized the address as belonging to a particularly sketchy part of the warehouse district. The area feels just like home, for better or for worse. People walk slower because they don't have anywhere much to be. 3 girls on a street corner laugh at some private joke. A couple of off-duty Teamsters take a walk from the loading dock where they work and pass a joint between them. What a weird twist of fate that brings you to a place like this in a suit. The specific example of urban decay in front of which the cab deposits you is a broken windowed and abandoned brick warehouse. The front door's chained shut. Your letter rests on the clean front step, opened by a single cut with a blade so sharp the paper didn't tear. That's a beautiful line. Your client's in here. Now all you need to do is find him. It. Vega glances around, obviously tense, obviously uncomfortable. Nobody around here subscribes to Scarfox Hunter's Quarterly, I bet. It's a cheap shot, but you can't resist, and luckily he gets the joke. Fortunately for their sake, he says. The mean article quality has fallen off in the last few years. Vega's not that bad, really, no matter if he was born rich. At least he doesn't take himself too seriously. He draws his knife, kneels, and carves a curving sigil into the concrete. The knife's fiery blade leaves spark trails where it cuts. I'll ward the area. Nobody will get in or out without our noticing. You sent the letter, the client will expect you. If you need me, just shout. It's nice that someone has your back, but still, you have to go in alone. The front door is chained, so you vault through a nearby window that seems free of broken glass, emphasis on seems, as you end up with a long, thin cut on your palm that oozes blood. Which brings us to the present. Sunlight through broken windows does not render the warehouse welcoming. Low ceilings, floors cluttered with refuse and rot, graffiti-stained brick pillars, walls marked with urine, rat droppings everywhere. Hell of a place to live. Clearly, you'll have to search for your client. How do you try to find him? And Mom is up. Please select one of those 3 options. Mom selects that we will use the craft to find the client. You close your eyes and see the world from a different point of view. Not all reality is visible. Much isn't, in fact. Bargains, contracts, souls, and the fine lines that bind them together. Seen with eyes of craft, your office building is a auroral shouldn't it be Anne? Is an auroral cascade of power and obligation. The warehouse is dark by comparison. Nothing's here. Nothing, that is, except your client. You follow the silver cord of his contract up the stairs to a narrow room, and you see him clearly, or the craftwork shadow of him, crouching against the wall. You open your eyes. Grime and decay replace the clean edges of the craft, and light washes out its darkness. Rourke, you say. I'm Lord Voldemort, from Varketh Nebuchadnezzar. I'm your craftswoman. I'm here to help. He hesitates first, as who wouldn't, but then at last emerges from the shadows, and you catch your breath. Nothing so large, so dangerous, should move so delicately. He skitters forward, and in the yellowed glint of morning light through the dirty glass you see him, a 5'5" mantis of gleaming jet, with long, 4-fingered scythe-like praying hands, gleaming red eyes. His head bobs down, slightly. Was that supposed to be a bow? Just another client, you tell yourself. And then you tell yourself again. Now we have to say something to him, and I am up. We'll pick the first option. I'm on your side. Let's see if we can help you. He nods again. If he can't speak Catholic, this is going to be a very strange case. You know a few words of demoniac, but the demon tongue has as many dialects as Minghua, maybe more. The firm must have a translator somewhere. But then he says, "Thank you," and his voice is beautiful. You bring Rourke back to the office and sit him across the conference table. Vega gets coffee for you all. Rourke doesn't drink his coffee, but he holds the mug under his mandibles and wiggles scalpel mouthparts in the steam. "Thank you," he says, "so much for your help." "We haven't helped you yet," Vega says. "Why don't you tell your story," you say. "Then I can think about what to do." Rourke sighs. "I am," he says, "an anomaly among my clutch. I have no interest in the family. The next word is in his native tongue and you don't catch it. It sounds like a raccoon being thrown through a plate glass window.
There it is. Isn't that great?
That is a wonderful sentence. You don't flinch much. The hierarchy, the meetings, the assured future, the eternal vendettas. I wish to travel. I wish to see other worlds. I wish to create art using the materials of your plane, to build sculptures which decay, to use your phase transition physics and your odd indices of refraction and your mad geometries, to create visions unimaginable in my world.
It's a hipster run!
You nod, because he seems to expect you to. Ordinarily, one of my kind wishing entry to your realm must have a permit of some sort. I was unfairly denied mine. This meant I had to seek non-traditional summering. Dracovic partners offered a deal, and I accepted, but their contract is harsh. So how do we respond to him, Tink? Please select one of those 4 options. Tech Guru says, so it's a demonic scyther. Yes, except it has apparently an additional pair of arms, and it's black and much taller. So I'm pretty much pooping my chair right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if someone combined a crab, a boulder, and like the desk drawer of a back alley abortionist's table.
Tink selects, what did you expect? Nothing this bad, he says. I thought they were as desperate for contracts in the demon realm as I was to come out here. Not everyone can afford to work through the embassy. So what did they have you do? Rourke bows his head. We signed a contract which allows me relative freedom and does not have a preset duration. I am not bound inside a golem, not commanded to do math for all eternity, but when my employers order, I must obey. They subcontract my labor to the dockyards. I can work tirelessly and lift far more than any human. I am a cheap machine to them. He clacks his mandibles together. Laughter? I know it was a stupid decision. I came to learn, to travel, to explore, and for 1.5 years I carried boxes. Then break the contract. The contract's provisions forbid me from breaking it. I could only run because my supervisor, the one to whom my leash was given, he fell. An accident. And with no one around to command me, I fled. I have disobeyed, and even now the deal burns inside me. Worse. Worse. All the time worse. You nod. Now that I should be able to help you with. Either side can break a contract. I could do it from here. We can have you home in a few minutes. But, Rourke says, I do not want to go home. I want to stay here, freely, or at least in a more permissive contract. You press one knuckle into the middle of your forehead, focusing on the pain. It helps you think. I need to think this through, you say. You can stay here for now, Rourke. I'll figure out what's next. He watches as you and Vega retreat into the hall. What now? You can pace here freely and fiercely, pondering your next steps. They don't look good, but maybe that's your exhaustion talking. Vega watches silent as you pace. This is your case. The direction has to come from you. Rourke needs the Dravoric contract changed and not broken. But no black market demon summoner is going to change a deal just because you ask. Besides, even if you can renegotiate the contract, you'll still need to get Rourke a visa in order to let him stay. I think I've pronounced his name like 7 different ways. Yeah. Best if you can predate it to before his summoning. If they wouldn't give him one before, though, why would they now? So, what's next? And TC, that is your choice. Select one of those 4 options. Yeah, I keep arguing with myself how to pronounce it. I guess it's Roke?
Yeah, that's how I usually pronounce it. Roke.
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 Adorable. And
Don't
scary.
Don't worry, that's not the worst word you have to pronounce.
Oh, I know. There was a cracked article about from Luke McKinney who was basically insulting people who could not who could not pronounce names, and it made me feel self-conscious. TC selects, there's more going on here than Orc's telling me. I need to ask some more questions. You return to the interview room, close the door, sit down and clasp your fingers, and fix Orc with a level stare. I have more questions. He drums long, knife-like fingers against the conference table, leaving deep grooves that gash through the black veneer into the soft white wood beneath. His maxillae tremble. This is probably what demons look like when they're nervous. You think. Alright, we have 1 of 5 questions we can ask, so Tech Guru, please pick a question. Maybe we'll get to ask more than one, but you get to pick the first question. Tech Guru selects, why didn't the demons give you a visa? My family, you would call it, Orc says. Most of the demons you encounter have undergone rigorous training and selection. If one's family does not wish one to leave, said family can interfere with relative ease. You don't have to talk like that just because I'm a craftswoman, you know. He blinks his scintillating red eyes. Like what? Okay, you reply. Why didn't your family want you to leave? I must be educated in proper objectives. I believe their idea of proper objectives to be antagonistic to the continued existence of both of our worlds. He stops and twitches. The fires in his eyes dim. His jet carapace dulls and clouds. He shivers. You wonder how one performs first aid on a demon. After a minute, he recovers. I am sorry. The pain of the contract comes in waves, and it grows. If you have more questions, ask them quickly. When I suffer, so does my self-control. You are very glad the conference room walls are reinforced. All right, Mom, you have the next question. What would you like to ask him further? Mom selects, what do you want out of this? What's your idea of a good outcome? Anything, he says, that lets me stay here as something other than a slave. I don't want to return home. I don't want to live at the mercy of another. That's a tall order. You asked what I want. My desires need not be practical. All right, so I am up. Why did you sign the agreement? I mean, you speak good Catholic, which means you're educated, and you're clearly intelligent. Why take such a bad deal? No deal's bad if it's the only one in town, Orc says. So you're saying that just because you don't have a lot of... you're just saying that because you don't have a lot of experience with deals. He hisses. How am I supposed to get that experience if I stay at home, behind walls? You don't know much about the torture layer cake of demon society, but you're getting a sense that oaks from the uppermost icing. Poor little rich kid. Still, no one deserves to be taken advantage of like this. And Tink, which of those would you like to do? Do you want us to ask the last question or move on? Tink selects the last question. Why did you come to us? Come to us? You came to me. You blink. Wait, what? I received your letter as an offer of aid. This is the first I learned of your mission. Then how did you get your case on our pro bono board? I do not know, Oak says. I've never worked with your firm before, though I do appreciate your help. Without you, I had no plan other than to remain in hiding until the pain became too great. Huh. That's interesting. Thank you. I do not know what I would have done without the aid of your offer.
That is interesting, isn't it?
It is interesting. Well, however thankless this job might be in general, at least you have the gratitude of a demon. So, what's next? And what is next, TC? Please select one of those 3 options. Alright, TC selects, it's time to visit the demonic embassy. There is a demonic embassy in Shikaw down by Troutman and Hawks, surrounded by tall fences and flickering lights and colors not even the city's most fashion-conscious have ever been able to name. Getting in isn't the problem. Finding what you want, that's the rub. Nobody does bureaucracy quite like the denizens of the Hell Realms. In a situation like this, a little sponsorship can go a long way. A word from a friend in a high place could pave your path. You do have friends in high places, don't you? Alright, so Tech Guru, you are up. Apparently we can ask Stone Varkath or Nebuchadnezzar for references. And just for your edification here, It looks like we have pretty shitty percentages with two of them. We have 20% for Varkoth and Nebuchadnezzar, 36% for Stone, which may or may not be good, but it's up to you. And Cleo wants to play, so we'll add her to the end of the rotation. Teguru says that the chances of getting help look bad, so no reference, we go out on our own. No sense bothering the partners with a case like this. True, demons thrive on hierarchy and authority, but the embassy has worked well with Varketh Nebuchadnezzar in the past, and you should be able to trade on the firm's own reputation to get what you want. You hope. The demons built their embassy south and inland on the ashes of buildings burned 70 years ago when the God Wars came to Shikaw. Each city bears the war's scars in its own way. In ever-striving Shikaw, land of high property values, the damage offered a rare opportunity for new architecture. Embassies rise here in a long row, each constructed after its own local custom. Churches of Kos ever burning beside the mummy palaces of southern Kath. Iskari squid temples and mead halls of the warrior kingpins of northern Scale rub shoulders with somber black glass outposts of Dresdale Lex and Regus and Alt Celine. And then there's the Hell Embassy.
Can I just say, frickin' Max Gladstone is a frickin' master with wordplay and imagery?
Yes, he really is. I wish I was that good. The Hell Embassy's hooked chain fences enclose an area twice the footprint of any of its rivals, though the building within is small, a needle of glass barely wide enough for a narrow door. You know better than to judge by outward appearances. Within the fence, the laws of your own universe do not rule uncontested. You present your papers at the gate. A creature with a liquid metal face and eyes like a child's accepts your ID and glances from you to the picture and back 4 times. At last, it ushers you inside. You step through the gates, and for a moment you're drowning. The sky above you reddens, then purples, then settles to its normal blue. You advance toward the tower within the gate, which is much bigger than it seemed from outside. The walk takes longer than you thought, too. The doorman, who looks almost exactly human save for his teeth, directs you up the stairs to the 10th floor. You climb, winding, alone. Perhaps each person who comes here climbs the stair alone. The door on the 10th floor opens into a chamber the size of a ballroom but without any of a ballroom's ornaments or charms. Enormous crystalline beetles squat behind tall counters, discussing paperwork with a number of humans, none of whom seem any more eager to be here than you. Mechanical tickers over the demon's head display numbers. A human at one counter starts shouting at the counter attendant and is dragged away by a few almost men in security uniforms. The number above that counter increments from 67 to 68. You take a number, sit down, and wait. And wait. And wait. And wait some more. At last, your number ticks up over a counter. You approach the giant beetle there, but you are intercepted by a faceless man in a black suit, with long knives for fingers. He hands you a piece of paper. Please, come with me. Might as well. The faceless man leads you back up to the stairs. You climb 3 flights, then turn around and descend 5 flights more. The door on this floor, which you don't remember passing on your climb up, opens onto a closet-sized room that looks exactly like your office back at the firm. Exactly. Right down to the version of you sitting behind the desk. What can we do for you? The demon you asks. Ugh, that's creepy. So, Mom, you are up. Please select which of those options you would like us to say to the demon us. But yeah, the author is damn good with imagery. Possibly because I'm not good at it, I don't use much imagery in my book.
Yeah, it's yeah.
I learned through writing that, like, if you're not good at a thing, you just shouldn't do it and should try to get around it. And, like, part of that is, like, in my book, I'm not good at weird words and names, so I intentionally use Anglo-Saxon names for fantasy, which most people don't do. And I'm not good at description for like this. I'm not good at imagery as much, so I try to harp on emotions and how characters are feeling and press dialogue, which I'm very good at. So I think it works out.
Yeah, inversely, I'm really good at imagery. I will weave you a fucking beautiful tapestry of a room, but my pacing is absolute shit.
Yeah. Well, why don't you read my book and help me with the weak part then?
I printed out a few chapters. I'm going to read it tonight.
You're a butt.
You're a butt.
You're a butt.
You're a butt.
Oh god, now I have to refine my center so I can continue this.
You're a butt. You're a gassy, smelly, farty butt.
Well, yes. Tink says we are all butts. Yes, we are all butts. Except King Jong-un, who apparently does not have a butt.
No?
No.
Does he shit out of his mouth? Yes, he does.
Constantly. Is that really, like, that? Was that really a thing? Like, Kim Jong, not his dad, Kim Jong-il, I've heard rumors that he somehow tried to convince people he didn't have a butthole. Or maybe that's just the way it was worded, that he tried to convince them that they didn't poop or something. It was a big joke in the interview, but I don't know if it was an actual thing that happened.
It honestly wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me either.
Yeah, it don't matter.
Cartman.
They're fucking crazy. Anyway, there's not much satire can do to soil that reputation.
North Korea is the Poe's law of meat space.
North Korea is like the upper decker of meat space.
Wow. Ew. All right. Now that that tangent's over and YouTube doesn't get to hear it, Mom selects, you can issue a post-dated exit visa for one of your citizens, pursuant to Form XJ72399, a completed copy of which I have here. Let me see that. You pass the relevant paperwork to the Demon U, and you don't even flinch when your hand brushes your hand, and you feel it from both directions. Oh, God. Oh,
I know. Isn't that amazing?
That is weird.
I fucking love this guy. I want to read all of his books.
At least you don't think you flinch. Hold on. I want to reread that sentence. You pass the relevant paperwork to the Demon U, and you don't even flinch when your hand brushes your hand and you feel it from both directions. Oh, God, that's wonderful. Whew! This form, she says, is only for individuals previously refused visas. Also, the number of entries here is 0. The person in question was previously refused a visa and has ended up in this world anyway. I want to legitimize his position, to extract him from an exploitative work contract. You see, I've included your Form 99B underneath, with the details. Damn, us. Demon U shakes her head. In this situation, we'll also need a cross-signed 1073D with support from a local sponsor. Next page, you say, and allow yourself a small, self-satisfied smile as she begins to turn the page and scowls at the perfectly completed form.
You had to wait all that fucking time. You better have your forms ready.
Demon U drums her fingers on the table. You wait. I can offer him a visa if you want, she says at last. But it will only work as long as he maintains a gainful employment contract here. I can't do any better than that. And even so, I know my bosses will hate this. That's enough, you say. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Demon U doesn't seem so sure, but shakes your hand anyway. You feel the handshake from both directions, and it feels good. It's not proper to grin as you're leaving a successful interview, but damn if you don't do it anyway. So, what's next? And that is Cleo's, that is Cleo's choice. Do we get advice from our partner Vega, well, not partner, but coworker Vega, or do we renegotiate the demon's employment contract? Let me know in the comments. Teguru asks, so we can give the demon a job. No, the demon embassy is giving the demon a job. So,
No, what's going on is the Demon Embassy is allowing him a visa, but he has to maintain a work contract. So you need to go renegotiate his work contract.
I see. Oh, yeah, that's true. Maybe we can get him a job then.
Yeah, and you definitely have to, like, get him out of that contract immediately anyway.
Okay, Cleo says renegotiate, so that's what we're doing. Dracovic Partners doesn't try to hide. You find their address in a public directory, though when you arrive, a converted factory in what used to be the city's garment district before Shikaw's textile industries gave way to tougher southern competition, you almost wish you hadn't. Depressing is a poor name for a place like this. Soul-sucking. A dingy gray sign bolted to dingy red bricks next to a thick black door that might as well have a keep out stenciled across. The inside of the building is not much better. Once you pass the welcome desk, unmanned and outfitted by the same cut-rate office furniture concern every sleazy business in Shikaw uses, you enter a dim room lit only by the sun through tall, smoked windows. No ventilation, no artificial light, no air conditioning, just the smell of chalk and brick and solvent and blood. The walls are lined with demons. Sorry, I just thought about throwing a raccoon through stained glass again. I'm sorry. You count to
Not stained glass.
Not stained glass?
Plate glass.
Plate
There's
glass.
a difference. It's very subtle, but it's the difference between what Rook said and a really fucking dirty sexual position.
You count 12, one on each wall. Their eyes dark, sleeping, naturally or otherwise. In the center of the floor stand 6 robed figures facing the middle of an acid-etched summoning circle. In the circle's center, a 7th robed figure holds a goat, its legs bound tightly together. A knife flashes from the robed figure's sleeve, and the goat screams. Briefly. Aw. Excuse me, you say? The woman in the circle looks up, shocked. You can see she's a woman now, under the hood. Blood pools at her feet. One of her eyes is blue, the other is black, and not in the recently punched sort of way. Who the hells are you? Her accents Zurish, blunt vowels, dental fricatives converging into Z's. This is a place of business. Sure, you say. And I'm a craftswoman. You can call me Ms. Kang. I represent one of your clients, a Mr. Oak Lind. She tightens all over at the mention of the name, which is a good sign for you. Do you want to do this here, or do you have a more private place where we can talk? She glances over her shoulder at the steam rising from the goat's blood. Goats are cheap. Let's go to my office. Not much of an office, you discover. A cheap desk, a safe, and that's all. Then again, this outfit doesn't seem to be heavy on bookkeeping. Dracovic shucks off her robe and hangs it from a coat rack. Beneath, she wears loose sweats and a tank top. She does not even seem remotely amused. What is this about? And I am up, and I have 4 options here. Let's see. Time to lay on the charm. What's our charm rating? Our charm is 61. Let's try to lay on the charm. Look, you say. I'm not here to try to throw my weight around. Good thing, she says, with an estimating look at your arms, as if physical strength mattered in an affair like this. Admittedly, you haven't been hitting the gym as much as you should, and desk jobs don't pack on muscle, but that hardly matters. Dracovic definitely hits the gym, though. Hard. My client just got in over his head. That's our stock in trade, Dracovic says. Think of us as a summoner of last resort. You're not even sure you want to know what that means. But I would really appreciate it if you want to renegotiate his contract. That's what you bring to the table? Appreciation? Appreciation, you say, can mean a lot, especially for someone who walks as close to the edge as you do. I'd rather we come to a deal here. You don't say what the alternative to a deal might be. That's as much of a threat as you feel comfortable giving this woman. Let her concoct her own worst-case scenario. She's probably better at it than you. Nice. Dracovic settles into the chair behind her desk. She looks smaller sitting down. What do you want? I want for you to get out of this line of work. You're taking desperate people... They count as people to you? They have knives for fingers. They eat souls. You're selling them as slaves. I don't even want to know what your clients do with them. Manual labor, she says. Gods, even to imply. She shivers. We run a class shop. I bet that's what they all say. Drakovic hates you now. You can tell from the weight of her eyes. But hers is the hatred of the beaten. Tell me what will get you gone. Change Ra'ork's contract. Impossible, she says. Not the way he wants. He wanted to stay here forever, no determinate end date. Too dangerous if he is not limited. I can relax his contract, reduce his obligations, end his work at the docks, but if so, we have to agree on an end date to the contract. Think what you want of me, but I am not a fool. She opens a drawer. You tense, thinking weapon, but she produces a pack of cigarettes instead, tamps them down, removes one, and lights it. She's telling the truth. You don't have to like it, but you won't gain anything more standing here. I'll send you the revised contract, you say, and leave. Vega finds you as you're getting a coffee and pondering your next steps. There's a demon here who wants to talk to you. I know, I'm still working on the case, not Ra'ork. Another demon. Oh boy.
Vega!
You don't know how the entity waiting for you in the lobby made it up the elevator, or the stairs for that matter. It's at least 7 feet tall and 10 feet long, a carapace of jet razors, a shield-like face with crimson, multifaceted eyes and bobbing antennae. It wears a necktie and greets you with a dismissive nod. You are Lord Voldemort King of this firm? The demon's voice is undoubtedly male. You nod. I am... Oh, God.
Told ya.
I am Clint. I am here to collect my son from your custody.
Clint.
We have 3 options of what? What? And what?
I
know. Nice. I don't even know who's up because that one took a while. Let's see.
This one doesn't matter.
Oh, this one doesn't matter?
It's just a framing thing.
All right, so... Oh, Tink and Cleo both do the question mark. So, what? I won't skip you, Tink. I'll have you do the next one anyway. Ra'ork. He is an impressionable and wayward boy. He needs guidance of the sort he will not find in your realm. He's here on a contract, which you know is, if not fraudulent, at least exploitative. It will be broken. He will return to us. That's not yet certain. My friend, Ms. Nebuchadnezzar, contacted me to indicate that you were working on his case. Take me to him. You lead the way. And a question got answered. Ra'ork has been drowsing against the table. Drowsing? Drowsing against the table. He looks up, blinking crimson eyes, and straightens as you enter the conference room. I'm sorry, he says. I was just... He stops when he sees his father. Clint should not be able to pass through the conference room door, but he does, folding himself along small, hidden seams, then unfolding to consume much of the conference room's empty space. The effect's intimidating, as he no doubt expected. Son, it is time for you to return. This craftswoman will break the contract binding you here, and we will retreat to our home plane. Ra'ork turns to you. Is that true? And Tink, you have the choice. How do we respond to Ra'ork? Select one of those 3 options. 5 minutes ago, Tink answered, not necessarily. Your son's contract is fixed, and I found him a visa. He can stay if he wants. Clint turns to you, eyes burning. He is very large, and you're here alone. My son will return with me. Your attempt to keep Ra'ork home forced him to accept a contract tantamount to slavery. I corrected that mistake. He's free to seek other work now. If he can't find any, he'll have to go home. Then he will find no further employment, Clint says, in a voice dripping with menace. I will make sure of that. You meet his gaze. I don't know why I didn't scroll that before reading it. Anyway, you meet his gaze. Like you made sure he wouldn't leave home? He wants this, and he's strong. I don't think you can keep it from him unless you want to break him yourself. Clint remains silent for a long time. You try to hold his gaze defiant. It's hard. I will stay here, Ra'ork says, and I will return home when the time comes. Clint and Ra'ork watch one another for a long time, not moving. You start to wonder if you should leave to give them privacy. At last, Kalint rears up and speaks. It is well, he says. I will leave. And he goes. Thank you, achievement. You escort him out, then return to the conference room to get Oak. The young demon extends one hand. Thank you. I could not have done this for myself. I will not be here long enough to help you in return, but perhaps one day I will be able to repay your work. It's fine, you say, and after a brief hesitation, you take his knife hand in yours and shake. You meet your own eyes in reflection in the black glass of his face. Good luck, Oak. Well, you say to Vega, shall we go celebrate?
Vega!
On Vega's suggestion, you repair to a tiny telomere restaurant in the Crowns. The owner knows Vega, which helps, because the restaurant only has 7 tables, 6 of which are occupied, and it's a half hour before closing. But the host embraces Vega, and they talk briefly in telomere, and he guides you to a seat. Old family friend, Vega says. The food is delicious. Pastas in light pan sauce, singed meats, and wine that tastes like it was stolen from... Oh, God. I'm so hungry.
I know, and it doesn't help that people are cooking.
I read, most people, when they read out loud, they're reading it a split second before you're verbalizing it, and I couldn't do it. I am very hungry right now. Let me try that again. The food's delicious. Pastas in light pan sauce, singed meats, and wine that tastes like it was stolen from a god's own table, and might well have been. Just what you need after a long day. After the meal, Vega walks you to the tram station. I live nearby, but the least I can do is see you on your way. So how do we respond? And TC is up. Please let me know in the chat. TC says, I'm imagining what my main character would do and then intensified it. She is very restrained except when she is not. And TC said that because he has selected, we kiss him. We could go back to your place. We could, he says. Let's go. His apartment's at first glance a nice place, elegant and clean and hung with expensive tapestries. Tapestries, god damn it me. Probably sent from his family's old world estate. But it's the elegance, the cleanliness that comes from distance. He doesn't spend much time here. He doesn't read the few books on these shelves. This place is a container for a man, more than a home. Fortunately, a container's all you need right now. Well, that and the man.
I fucking love romancing Vega. It's so pretty.
And my mom has left the chat, so she is out of the rotation. Okay. Have a good night, Mom. 2 days later, Angelica Nebuchadnezzar summons you to her office. She occupies one of the 3 corner offices on floor 53, with windows facing south and east. If you stood behind her desk, you could see Embassy Row from here, and beyond that, the warehouse district and the wharfs. South, the city stretches for miles and miles. Elevated trains chug down their tracks, rattling windows. She is standing behind her desk, and you could see these things. You can't, because you're not. She is. Okay.
It's the phrasing.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
Privilege and power.
I get it. Oh, I see.
You read it a little weird.
Yeah. Yes, I did. Because I didn't know what the hell I was reading. Anyway, Angelica Nebuchadnezzar is a dark-skinned woman in a light blue suit. Hey, there's the first mention of race. Although that's not even race, that's skin tone. Which is a subtle difference.
She's a friggin' partner, too, and she's got dark skin.
Yeah.
Unheard of.
Yeah, exactly. Who gives a fuck? That's another reason I'm trying to get my book going, since the king of Nick's world is black and nobody gives a shit.
Nobody gives a shit.
Anyway.
No one should give a shit.
One of her eyes is gone. Why? Immediate boner killer, even though I didn't have one. One of her eyes is gone, replaced by a ruby sphere. You can't tell if the sphere is looking at you or not. Her remaining eye is. Ms. Kang, did you enjoy your pro bono case? How do we respond to that? Tech Guru, please select one of those 3 options. Tech Guru selects, I enjoyed stretching my abilities. You performed admirably. I'll have to see whether we can arrange a more comprehensive test for you next time. She seems to be waiting for you to say something else, but you don't know what. In the end, she smiles and says, "Thank you. That will be all." You ride the lift back down to your office. It's a long, slow descent, and with the doors closed, you realize the entire lift... God, what? Lift cab?
Yeah, they use old technology, like daguerreotypes.
Lift cab.
Yeah, it's not an elevator, it's a lift. Lifts are less, like, what's the word I'm looking for?
'Cause, like...
Advanced than elevators. Elevators are streamlined. Lifts are just cables, cords, and pulleys.
Cleo said that is so racy, but I'm not entirely sure what she's referring to. Anyway, that's interesting. That like the reason that threw me is because I've never seen the word lift like that as an adjective, so it completely fucked me up. Yeah. Anyway, let me try that again. It's a long, slow descent, and with the doors closed, you realize the entire lift cab is reflective. Beneath you, the shaft plummets for 40 stories of dead air. And here you are, stuck in a box of your own image turned against you, shattering into pieces. Ugh. The image slips and fades, but the blood remains. You are more than you were, or at least you remember more than you once remembered. You fall in shards through this darkness from which you cannot return. More sparks and slivers of falling memory tumble around you. You grope for memories, for pieces of broken mirror. After the affair with Oak, you moved more assuredly through the firm's corridors. You walked your path. The seasons turned. How did your life change? So once again, we can move or change how much we save, or both, or neither. And Cleo has the floor at the moment. Cleo selects that we moved. Okay. Right now we are as close to the office as we can be, so where did we move to? A cheaper place further from the office, or to the cheapest place we could find. And the further out we go, the cheaper it is, but the more tired we are when we try to do these cases. So that does impact the story a bit. Keep that in mind. But Cleo, I will let you select where we moved to. Cleo selects to move to the cheapest place we can find. Okay. And I am up, and I don't want to change how much we saved, so we did not change anything else. And so you reach for another shard of your own spinning mind, another reflection of a screaming face you barely recognize as your own. Your hand spasms in pain. You frown, make a fist, and turn it in a circle, counting the cracks and pops from your joint. Too much work recently, not enough relaxation. No vacation since you joined the firm. There was never a good time. That makes, 3 years now? 4? You can't remember the night you got... You can't remember the last night you got a good long sleep. It can't be healthy. You've caught yourself in the middle of stupid mistakes, errors of craft you'd never have made well rested. How many more mistakes have you missed? The small muscles of your body cord around themselves. Your cab plods south through traffic. In the carriage to your left, a man in a dark suit reads a comic book. To your right, a woman drowses against her window. Today, at least, you aren't working. Today, you are going to a conference. Fun. To be more specific, you're presenting at a conference. Varkath Nebuchadnezzar wants you to discuss the mechanics and attendant risks of demonic labor at the annual Shikah Craft Summit. You're no master of demonology, but between the TT case and your work with Oak, you have a certain degree of personal experience. Either that, or, more likely, everyone else higher than you on the food chain pled out of their responsibility. Oak finds the prospect of you presenting yourself as an expert on demons quite amusing. He's given you a few tidbits that you might find useful, but you doubt the panel will be interested in the finer points of demonic table etiquette, of which, it turns out, there are many. That sounds adorable. What do you think about the situation? So, Tink, what do you think about the situation? Please pick one of those 4 options. Tink selects connections I build here could be useful later. This could be an excellent opportunity. Summits like this one are one of the few opportunities you have, as a young associate who spends most of her time working, to meet people outside your own firm in non-adversarial fashion. No matter how loyal you are to Varkath Nebuchadnezzar, there's always the chance they won't be loyal to you. You can use this conference to network and prepare. Decades past, this stretch of lakefront property was home. Where the fuck did I get the word property from? God damn, brain. I am really tired. I should have drank some caffeine before I started.
Lakefront is usually followed by property.
Yeah,
so
but
it's just...
I swear to God, my brain or my eyes read the word property in there. Last week, I had
it's a reflex.
A vanilla Coke while I was doing this, and I was rested. Now I'm tired as hell, and I'm drinking Crystal Light. So,
Want a Mountain Dew?
God, yeah, please. From now on, I need to keep doing streams
There you go.
Thank you. From now on, I need to keep doing streams on caffeine, because, Jesus. Although it might be a little too late by now.
Mountain Dew usually shoots right through you.
Ugh. Yeah, actually, Cleo, it is exactly Baja Blast. Indeed, that is what she just handed me.
Yep. Like I said, I can stockpile that shit.
Decades past, this stretch of lakefront was home to the Temple of Bridging Waters, a sprawling complex of marble and granite dedicated to the meeting of the great water gods with those of the inland rivers. Those gods are dead now, dead since the wars, and Carolyn Convention Center stands in the place of the raised temple. The new building does not waste time evoking a sense of peace and prosperity. It looks like an unfinished nest of thorns. All the structural supports and ductwork are outside the walls, in the service of some 30 years antiquated. God damn it, I should be able to pronounce that word.
Antiquated
Ikari design philosophy. Fuck! It's hell to clean in the winter. Massive icicles hanging from struts and ducts. The cab lets you off up the street. You raise the collar of your own coat. You raise the collar of your coat against the cold and walk along a sidewalk crammed with shivering suited figures toward the door marked panelists.
Can I just say that passage of writing kind of reminded me of The Sound of Silence?
What is The Sound of Silence?
The song by...
Oh, Simon and Garfunkel? I love that song.
In restless dreams I walked along narrow streets of cobblestone.
Oh, that's Green Day.
No, that's...
What?
Simon and Garfunkel. You're thinking... What's the fucking song?
I don't remember.
You're thinking of fucking Boulevard of Broken Dreams, but
yes.
No.
No?
No.
Oh, it's been a while since I've heard that song, then. I keep wanting it. I need to put it on my phone.
In the halo of a street lamp, I turned my collar to the cold and damp. When my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon sign. Yeah.
You should just fucking sing it. It'll get more hits on the channel. Were you about to?
No, but we need to get back. I was, but we need to get back to it.
See, I know it's a bad day when you're the one more on task than me. The air inside is wet with the snow melting off 1,000 coats. Oh, God, beautiful phrase. You collect your badge from a bored woman at the attendees booth, puzzle through a map posted on a nearby wall, and head off toward your panel chamber.
It's exactly a fucking convention.
You make it 5 steps before a shout from behind you brings you up short. Kang! You recognize the voice. Wakefield.
Wakefield!
You turn and see her approaching across the crowded entry hall. In a world of blacks and charcoals, she wears a suit the color of a pencil grazed across a sheet of white paper and a sapphire shirt open at the collar. A few years of work have done nothing to mellow her aristocratic disposition. A pleasant surprise to see you here. When I encountered your name on the program, I thought they must have misprinted. What a bitch!
Who can misprint Lord Voldemort?
Kang? Yeah, Lord Voldemort Kang. I have no fucking
I know.
clue.
I like choosing ridiculous names too. So it
Cleo agrees. What a bitch.
It just makes the friggin' thought of a misprint that much more ridiculous. Like friggin' Mika Revens was the name I chose. How do you misprint that? Mispronounce.
All right.
Print that.
TC has temporarily skipped his turn, so Tech Guru is up. Which of those 4 options do you pick as we respond to her? Please let me know in the chat. Tech Guru selects, I should think you'd have something more important to do than stalk me. Oh yes, she says, falling into step beside you. Together you proceed around the edge of the con floor toward your panel chamber. But nothing quite so fun. So that's your main motive here? Finding fun at my expense? Expense is hardly the word I would choose. Does my presence tax you? In the sense that it is an unwelcome and periodic occurrence? Yes. Wakefield laughs, but if you didn't know any better, you would think that laughter contained just a trace of pain.
Oh, you lost relationship points.
The panel will take place in a dingy, yellow-lit room with yellow wallpaper and an unfortunate corpse gray carpet. The audience is half full already with various craftsmen and craftswomen, many of whom are human. A few deathless kings and queens sit near the back, skulls matte and pale save for the one who's had his, or her, hard to tell with the skeletons, bone inlaid with ebony. In the rear corner, a shriveled, leathery craftswoman bobs in a tank of water, carried within a 10-foot-tall copper wire automaton. Her hair drifts like clouds around her bowed head. A man in the third row turns to the next page of his newspaper and checks his pocket watch. The other panelists are already in place, placards in front of each one. Only 2 seats are empty, yours and the one belonging to the demonic guest, a representative of the coalition of Akergath, who were, of course, your adversaries in the TT case. You hope the demon, when he, or she, or it, shows up, holds no hard feelings. Business is business.
As it was in The Godfather.
You jog to the front of the room, excuse your way to the stage, and sit down behind the placard that reads Lord Voldemort Gang, Varketh Nebuchadnezzar Stone. Yes, that entire phrase would be very hard to misprint. The audience looks a good deal more intimidating when you're seated at the front of the room. You exchange a nod with the moderator, a skeleton with 2 painted porcelain globes in place of eyes. Ugh. Excellent, he says. Now that you're here, we can start. Shouldn't we wait for the other panelist? The moderator points with one long, bony finger. You turn in time to see Wakefield settle down into the empty chair.
This is gonna get gross.
Wakefield grins at the shock you try and fail to hide. Easier to do it this way than to summon her all the way from the far hells, she says. I'll see you when we're done. At Craig's, perhaps? You watch in horror as Wakefield's grin widens and hardens until it's more a seizure than grin, the hysterical opposite of a stroke victim's arrest. Those bright blue eyes roll up in their sockets and keep rolling, and cease to be eyes at all but holes, pits welling with blood. A blood tear drips down Wakefield's cheek, and she removes a red handkerchief to wipe it away. The smile remains wide. Her teeth are now pointed, and her tongue is thinner. Shall we begin, she says. Your stomach turns, but the moderator nods, and there's no way out but through. The moderator's talking, but you don't pay much attention. There's the crowd, and there's you. You prepared extensively. Pages of notes back in your office, pages and pages. But you just can't read. But you can't just read from notes now, not with the audience watching. The audience, which you realize with a sudden sinking feeling, includes the obviously pseudonyms John Smith of TT, who of course would be here. His concern relies on demonic labor and investment. But performing in front of the gray eminence of Varketh Nebuchadnezzar's largest client does not help preserve your calm. So, how do you plan to play this panel? There's 4 options on the board, and Cleo, you are up. Please select one of those. Cleo selects that we charm the crowd. Whatever else the audience gets out of the panel, at least you can help them enjoy their experience. You turn on the charm in a serious way, relying on as big and easy and honest a grin as you can muster, and your usual mix of affable charm. Still, it's hard to charm a crowd full of craftsmen and craftswomen. Your jokes and stories are good, you think, but they fall on deaf ears, or at least humorless ears. Oh well. Their loss if they don't understand why you getting jumped by Oak is funny. The rest of the panel never quite gets their act together either. Attendees talk past one another, make unconscious assumptions, veer into technical weeds, and in the end, the 5 of you fail to reach even a reasonable disagreement. Wakefield's demon is the one notable exception. It's light on its feet, rhetorically sharp, and informative. Soul stuff, the demon says through Wakefield's mouth, is the essence of your reality, purified and condensed by the action of consciousness. Through it, we learn about other worlds. Which may or may not be true, but it's the first time you've heard a demon speak on the subject. When the moderator glances at his watch and says, "It seems the time has come for this panel to end," The applause lasts a necessary few seconds before it fades into insignificance. By the time you've gathered your coat and finished exchanging pleasantries with the panelists to your left and right, Wakefield's already gone. No matter. The post-panel glow is more than enough to keep you warm on the walk to the bar. Craig's is a Cam Lane-style pub a half block down from the Lakefront Drive from the convention center, and, as you'd expect from a place that serves alcohol so close to a large concentration of craftsmen, it's slammed. When you step into the heat, there isn't enough room to brush the snow off your coat, and it starts to melt through. You shoulder between a golem and a forbidding green-faced woman in flowing black robes, ignore the beleaguered hostess's bleating, and find a square foot of clear ground to catch your bearings. A skeleton brushes past you, engaged in deep conversation, with a sprite seated on her shoulder, drinking something green out of a thimble-sized crystal cup. A tall and dapper reanimated gentleman in a tuxedo... Whoa. A tall and dapper reanimated gentleman in a tuxedo bows to a bronze-skinned woman with hair in long golden braids down to the middle of her back. Everyone who's anyone is here, and about half those who aren't. What? Oh, I see. Yeah. Across the room, you glimpse your panel's moderator huddled over a glass full of whiskey. You wave to him, but either he doesn't notice you or he ignores you. And I am up, and... I guess we have to look for Wakefield, so let's order 2 drinks. She probably needs one after being possessed. You shout your order to the bartender, who can't possibly have heard it over all the noise in here. She nods anyway and passes you something orange and steaming, or is that smoke? Either way, it tastes good. And so does the second one. You settle back against the bar with your drinks and scan the crowd. That is not how I expected. I figured she'd save one for Wakefield, but okay. The bar is a jumble of bodies and a roar of noise. Outside, the snowstorm's picked up, and snowflakes the size of cotton balls hit the windows and stick.
Well, you're an alcoholic.
We're a lush. In a corner booth, almost hidden by shoulders and backs and arms and bobbing heads, you catch a glimpse of Wakefield's face, laughing. You stand on your tiptoes and crane your neck. You weren't wrong. Wakefield raises a beer to her lips and takes a long swallow. For once, she looks genuinely happy, without any ulterior motive or game. You crane your neck to try to make out who she's drinking with. And there, when the mountain man shifts out of the way, you see... Isn't that interesting? John Smith of TT. Now, what's your client doing with drinking with your... What is Wakefield to you anyway? And Tink, that's your call. What is Wakefield to us? Please select one of those 3 options. Tink selects that Wakefield is our rival. Every blade needs a grindstone. Every blade needs a grindstone to abrade its sharp. You've served that role for each other since your time at the hidden schools, which makes this particular case strange. Is she trying to steal your client? TC, is she trying to steal our client? Let me know in the chat. TC selects. Smith looks entirely too pleased for my comfort. What's his angle? The question isn't so much why Wakefield might want to drink with Smith, as why Smith would want to oblige her. In your previous interactions with Smith, he didn't seem to be a terribly social human being. Didn't seem like much of a human being at all, in fact. People do show different sides outside the office, but is that what's going on here? A few facts float through the drink haze in your mind. The demon who rode Wakefield through the panel was sent by the consortium of Akergath, the same consortium which was trying to exploit Smith's contract down in southern Cath, the demon invasion you stopped. That kind of consciousness sharing is not one way. The demon who rode Wakefield left some of itself inside, traces of which Ashley might not be conscious, but which will surface over the next few weeks in Nightmares. If Smith wants to steal a march on his competitors' partners, perhaps he could try to pry out those scraps of abandoned memory. The process wouldn't be pleasant for Wakefield, though. So what do we do, if anything? And Tech Guru, you have the call. What do we do about this situation? I'm starting to lose the plot a little bit, I have to admit. So what's going on is we're trying to figure out why Smith and Ashley would be drinking, and we're theorizing that because the demon left chunks of itself in Ashley, that John Smith is considering possibly pulling those chunks out.
Yep.
Okay. Yay me summarizing. God, I don't know why I was having trouble with that. Tech Guru selects that we use the craft to overhear the conversation. This is such a bad idea. You're in a room full of craftswomen and okay. You're in a room full of craftswomen and all manner of other powers, any of whom could tell what you're trying to do in the blink of an eye. But hells, you've had bad ideas before and they turned out okay. Except for that one time when you set the relay baton on fire. And, a decent chunk of your professional career. Throwing perception is possible but tricky and easy to notice. Much better to plant a glyph nearby and listen through that. Better, that is, if you had a way to plant the glyph without their noticing. You don't have a scrying ball on hand, and again, staring into a crystal ball would be a little obvious. What you can do, though, is clear a space in the air between your ears and their table. Just a little tube of semi-solid air above the heads of the crowd, leading from your ear over to their booth. Doesn't take much power, and the bar may be noisy, but sound waves are pretty low energy. Takes a try or two to get the pathway right, and even at its best, you can't hear them any better than if you could if you were listening through a very long tube. But you do manage to catch a few snatches of conversation. Productive business relationship, Smith's saying, in that eerily normal voice of his. I understand exactly what you mean, Wakefield says. She sounds earnest for once. And I would be willing to take you up on that trade, though this is obviously not the right location. I know a place, Smith says, and they get up to leave. The storm outside grows worse. A layer of snow covers the bar's small, high windows. The door opens to admit or emit patrons, and each time gusts of cold wind draw curses from those still gathered inside. You've been drinking at a slow but steady pace. The bartender likes you, but you feel less controlled than usual. Happens sometimes. Wakefield rises first, and Smith follows her to the door, unbuttoning his coat, obviously intrigued. Wakefield's behaving strangely, less vicious than usual, for one thing. Ordinarily, she would not give a snake like Smith the time of day. She has a finely honed taste for Smith's brand of malice. Perhaps Smith is smooth enough to overcome Wakefield's general dislike, but judging from body language, Wakefield seems to be doing at least half the leading in this scenario. Something's going on here. Some lingering result of the panel. When she let that demon into her body, the demon, summoned for the panel, which, now that you recall, never formally ended. The time has come to end this panel, the moderator said. He didn't actually say the panel was over, just that its scheduled time had elapsed. Not much of a loophole, but enough for a demon to exploit. This is mad. But the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. Demons hold long grudges, and when it saw Smith in the audience, it must have seen its chance, if it didn't know already. But how can you catch up with them? And, who's even up? Cleo's up. Please select one of those 4 options. It's not complicated per se, TC. It's kind of because of how verbose it is. How verbose it is, and the fact that I'm super tired. So, that's probably why. And reading out loud is giving me this weird disconnect. I didn't want to... Wait, what? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Aqua's up. I apologize. And you're both saying the same thing, so that works. Anyway, I'll be honest here. Sometimes when I'm reading out loud, and I notice this with Choice of the Robots, I kind of zone out, and I am actually not even paying attention anymore. I'm just worrying about reading, so I don't catch the plot in my head. And as much as I'm enjoying Choice of the Deathless, I'm not connecting with it as much as I did Choice of Robots. So there are times when my brain just poops itself, and I don't even understand what words I'm saying. I just spew them. Which is no slam against Choice of the Deathless. It's just not exactly my type of story, and certainly not something that reading out loud is helping me focus on.
I was going to say, this is more my jam than your jam.
Which, and again, and I'm only paranoid about this because of shit that's happened to me recently. I have nothing against this story, and I actually have a lot of respect for it. I'm just having a little trouble. That's all. So anyway. Oh, and Cleo agrees. Oh, Cleo. We are kindred souls. Let's see. Okay. Aqua Lightning is up, and he selects, we ask. There are plenty of people on these streets. Someone must have seen them. You push toward the door. Plenty of excuse me's and pardon me's on the way out. Curt, sure, but then you're in a hurry. The bar has a bouncer outside. A big, thick-cheeked guy with steel plates implanted on his forearms. Holy shit, it's Cable. They glint in the gap between his coat cuffs and his leather gloves. Hey, you say. Did you just see a pair go past? Blonde about my height and a brown-haired, creepy-looking guy about yay tall? He shrugs. I think they went that way. You nod your thanks and sprint off. Vague directions are better than none. You stop a passing cop who hasn't seen anything. The woman's face flushed with drink as a ward against the cold. You get better leads from a pair of craftsmen taking a stroll. They've surrounded themselves in a thin sphere of fire, vaporizing the snow as it falls and leaving puddles of ice behind them. The shorter craftsman, smoking a cigarette in a long holder, lisps that he saw a pair of your description going down Edison Pier. Cold storm wind stabs you in the chest and throat. You can barely see, the snow is so thick. It sticks to your hair and eyelashes and melts on your shirt. No matter. You reach Edison Pier, turn right, and sprint past shuttered shops and snow-covered benches. Ahead, through the white, you glimpse a flash of golden hair. You run toward the flash of gold through the snow. The brief flash of color resolves into two figures, Wakefield and Smith, just in time for you to see Wakefield stab Smith in the stomach. Oh, shit. You shouldn't be able to hear the squelch of blood and organs from this distance, but you do. He falls into the snow. Breath steams from his mouth, and from the second mouth, Wakefield's blade has just opened for him. Oh, Jesus. Blood stains both the white snow and the glass glittering at the tips of Wakefield's fingers. She turns to you slowly. Oh, gods. You see it now. Wakefield didn't use a blade. She used a claw. Her fingers are tipped with long glass knives, and her eyes. Those eyes. Wakefield's eyes are pits of blood. Tears well from them and roll down her cheeks. Exorcism was never your subject back at the hidden schools, but you put on your best banishment voice and try anyway. Be gone from her, demon! It laughs, which is par for the course. You're bound, you say, by the contract that let you into Wakefield's body in the first place. You have no power here other than what's been given to you. Ah, it says, but embodiment lends itself to so many interpretations. It revels in its sibilance, whatever that is, and I have no grand goal. This man stole from us. This man lied to the consortium. We shall rip our vengeance from him, and now from you. And it moves toward you, fast. With the demon riding her, she moves fast, so fast, a blur of white and gold. No time for analysis, for careful consideration of options. You dodge to one side, but her claws rip through your shirt and skin, drawing blood. She sweeps past before you can react, and then turns and licks your blood off her talon. Good, she says with a manic grin, and then she moves again. A single thought flashes through your mind. And Cleo is up. What thought flashed through our mind? Please type it in the chat. Cleo selects if that demon escapes, it might break its contract. I can't let that happen. The contract that brought the demon to your world is already strained to its breaking point. If it somehow slips free, its powers will become undefined, limitless, at least for a short time. The demon will eventually die, but before then, who knows what kind of havoc it might wreak. You need to stop it now. This isn't the place for sympathy. Wakefield isn't in control now. The demon is. If you think of her as human, you won't be able to fight hard enough to stop her. And I am up. I blast the demon with all the craft. I'll take the direct approach. I look for some way to tip the odds in my favor. Well, Lord Voldemort seems to be pretty smart, so I look for some way to tip the odds in my favor. Can't fight this damn thing hand to hand. Craftwork's notoriously hard to use on embedded demons without affecting the human host. Difficult to tell the entities apart when they're so closely entwined. And this isn't some two-thaw mystery play where you can just appeal to the power of love to break a person free from mental domination. You need to play this clever. So you take inventory of your surroundings. Streetlights glint off a patch of slick, transparent ice on the concrete, beside a chair and table some idiot left outside of their shuttered hot dog stand. Okay, so it's hardly the victory of the Colmax over the Golden Horde, but it'll have to do. The demon, after all, doesn't have much experience in this world. It's probably still sorting out local physics properties like friction. You circle step around the demon slowly, as if you're trying to flank it or draw it away from Smith. The demon advances. Wakefield's smile widens and widens until the corner of her mouth split on either side. There are too many teeth in her mouth. She raises one hand, tipped with long, cold claws, and moves. Toward you, which means toward the ice. Wakefield's polished black leather shoes slip on the ice, and she falls, hard, on her face. Memories. You don't wait for her to recover. You grab one of the iron chairs. The metal's cold, ice bites at your fingers, and the chair's heavy with snow. Your arms quake as you lift it over your head, and you bring it down. The demon Wakefield isn't moving. You stagger back. Your breath steams in the cold air. You're bleeding, you notice. Strange that something like that could go unnoticed. Not that you feel the pain yet. You can see the blood. That's all. Wakefield bleeds from the wounds both you and the demon have inflicted, and she moves unsteadily, jerkily, more like a puppet than a human being with joints and bones intact, struggling to advance, to rise, to kill. You have a moment in which to act. The demon's in Wakefield. You might be able to get it out, but if not... So, Tink, what are we going to do? You have 4 options there. Please select one, and let me know in the chat. Tink selects. The demon's only supposed to be here until the end of the panel, right? So if I just end the panel... It can't be that simple, can it? The demon advances toward you, claws out. You close your eyes, scan its contract. Faster, faster. Yes, there it is. All the subclauses bound by a single term, the length of the panel. You reach out with the craft and press against that point. In the absence of a panel moderator, authority over panels at an Association of Craftsmen conference descends in order of seniority. As the sole remaining member of the association present, the demon's close now, struggling against the contract already cutting into it. One claw reaches for you. As the sole remaining member of the association present, I declare this panel complete. The claw trembles and shatters into a rain of ice. Wakefield closes her eyes, and when she looks up, they're not full of blood anymore. She crumbles. You catch her as she falls and lay her on the ground. Wow, you say, that worked. And then you pass out too. You wake in a hospital beneath an unfamiliar ceiling. Your mouth's dry. You reach for a glass of water. Bandages and healing skin beneath the bandages pull and twitch. A noise from the hallway attracts your attention. You glance over in time to see a nurse, wide-eyed, staring at you. You're awake. That's not a good sign. A doctor sweeps into the room a few minutes later, holds a cold stethoscope to your chest, listens to your breathing, and checks your pulse. That's not the end of your recovery, but it is the beginning. It takes a few more days of physical therapy, healing, and recovery before you receive your first visitor, Damien Stone. Stone saunters into the room, hands thrust deep in his trouser pockets, eyes downcast. You made it. We're glad. If you don't mind me asking, sir, what are you doing here? You've recovered enough, at least for banter. You really should designate an emergency contact on your health plan. You nod. Fair enough. What happened? You got the demon out of Wakefield before you collapsed. She woke up soon after and you got to safety. If not for her, you'd still be dead now. Still? You were only under for a few minutes, but be careful. Even when we save the mind, we can't often save the meat. I'll keep that in mind, you say. How's Wakefield? You didn't do her any favors when you put her down. Wakefield will be a long time recovering, but she left a note for you. He removes a sealed envelope from his jacket pocket and places it by your left hand. Stone nods. How do you feel? I must admit I've never fought someone possessed by demons hand-to-hand before. What was it like? And TC, what was it like? Let me know in the chat. TC selects, great. You don't know what you're missing. Perhaps, he says. You exchange a bit of conversation about open cases and after that, about open cases after that, but nothing important. He leaves, and in the privacy of your hospital bed, one-handed, you open Wakefield's letter. It's short. I suppose I should thank you. Hard to hold the proper perspective when I'm lying flat on this hospital bed, but you've won me back to myself. I appreciate what you've done. When we're both well, perhaps we will laugh this through. I have enclosed a small fragment of the demon collected from the site of our battle. It may serve for a memento. A. You remove the shard from the envelope and cradle it in your palm. Sharp, sterile hospital lights glint off the demon glass, and through it you see the reflection of other worlds. And then yours comes apart again. And that will do it for today's episode, since we have cleared ourselves a chapter. All right, so at the top of the broadcast, I said I was thinking we were going to conclude it. I was basing that off the Akamura who had played it before. I'm actually kind of glad she did, so I kind of had an idea of how long it is. Apparently we have 2 more chapters plus an epilogue. Is that what you said?
Yep.
So we should be able to complete it next week, especially if A, I don't go off on tangents every 3 seconds, and B, if I don't take an extra half hour to get home from work due to shenanigans. So,
shenanigans.
Thanks for watching, everyone who is watching this. If you are watching this on Hitbox, keep watching for an after party where I may or may not read a section of my own book, since you seem to want it. And if you are watching this on YouTube, you should join us every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, hitbox.tv/PyroFalkonLPE. And remember, you can pick up Choice of the Deathless on Steam. Links to my Hitbox channel and the game on Steam are both in the video description. Hopefully you'll join us next time, because the more the better, especially when we play audience interaction games. So if you are watching this on YouTube, thanks for watching, and I will see you next week for another stream.